This person, I forget what their name is, so I'm gonna call them.
Smithers.
Yeah, okay, Smithers. Yeah, so Smithers wanted to go out to the midnight premiere of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and invited me, and we were going to make it like a date. And
What a dumb name, Smithers.
yeah, so Smithers really wanted me to come along to this, and I really wanted to go. But, I had a very strict bedtime, 10 o'clock, and I'm in bed, and I can't go out. So I planned it perfectly that I was going to sneak out and go to this movie premiere. And
Nice.
I went to bed. I waited to hear my dad and my stepmom go to bed. I slept in my bed with my clothes on because I was ready. And so when the time comes and I hear them close the door and it's quiet for a while, I slowly get out of bed. It's squeaking, but I'm like being real careful about it. And like I'm tiptoeing as carefully as I can. And before I left, just in case they came in my room and were wondering where I was, I left a little note. I'll come back to that note later because it's important, but I'll get it at the end. So I sneak out of the house and I don't go out the front door. I go out the back door. It's not like our doors had like beep, beep, beep alarms or anything, but I just thought the front door was not sneaky enough.
Oh, too obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, too obvious,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So I sneak out the back. We have a sliding door in the back, and it also is like way squeakier and way louder. You know how sliding doors are when
Yeah.
they're old and they got dirt in there?
It's like an earthquake.
Yeah, exactly. I sneak out the back and I creep around the side, but I don't go around the side where my parents' bedroom is because they could see me, even though there's no windows that look out the side yard. When I sneak out that way, I went around the other way through the gravel, the very loud, crunchy gravel. So I sneak out the side and I get in the car. And for some reason, my dumbass, didn't put it in neutral and like roll it out of the driveway. No, I just turned that baby on in the driveway and then I flipped the lights for some reason, like just blasting the house with lights. I'm like, oh, shit. And I waited a few minutes in the car, like I was waiting for the comical like light in my parents' bedroom to turn on. Like, hey, what was that?
So sneaky.
Then I roll the car out of the driveway and I drive to the movie theater. And at this point, I had taken so long to get out of the house. So I get to the movie theater and there's no line or nothing. It's like, because everyone's in the theater watching the movie. And so I didn't know where they were. I don't think I had a cell phone at this point, so I couldn't text them and say, hey, I'm here. Which theater are you in? So what I did was I poked my head in every single one of the theaters, leaned over and just kind of scanned the crowd for a bit. And like people were like looking at me all shifty, like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? And I'm like, oh, where are you, Smithers? Where are you? And so not that theater, so I go over to the next
What
theater.
a dumb name.
And I'm catching like snippets of Harry Potter as I go into like the rooms at one at a time. And I go into every single movie theater and I could not find Smithers no matter how hard I looked. And at that point, it got so far into the movie that I was just like, man, I'm missing out on the movie. So I just went into a random ass theater and just sat in one of the handicap seats and I was like, I might as well watch it. I'm here. So I watched the movie. Smithers was nowhere to be seen. So I go back into my car and I'm like scanning around and I wait until everyone leaves the parking lot. I'm like, oh God, they're not here. I'm all alone. I drive back home, snuck it into the driveway. I retrace my steps going back through the gravel path and in through the sliding door, which I had left unlocked. Sneak up to my room and I just look at the note that I wrote and it was the stupidest note because it said like, Dad, comma, I know you're probably worried about me, but don't be. I snuck out to go see Smithers at the movie theater. I know you probably think less of me for this, but just know that I did it for love. Signed, I think I wrote sincerely, Mark.
I love a vignette of your dad. Like, he hears the car driving away and like peeks out the window stealthily as you're driving away and is like, oh no, he didn't. And then just goes to your room and picks up the letter and it's just there reading it like, oh no, I don't think less of you at all, son. You go get Smithers. Oh, that's my part. And he just like puts the note back and is like, well, just pretend. It's fine.
I don't know how much I want to tell this
I
story,
want to
but,
hear it even more
Shame.
now.
when I was in high school, I was dating a girl We were together for 4 years.
What's her name? What's her name?
I'm gonna keep that one to myself for now.
Shplamambla.
Yeah, Shplablambla. That was her name. Somewhere in the middle of our relationship, like a year, 2 years in, three, I don't know, somewhere in there, we had made out, fooled around a bit, and we hadn't had sex. But I remember a couple days later, she's like, hey, I need you to get something for me. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, what is it? And she's like, I need you to get a pregnancy test. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, my period's late. It's never late. Please. And so I'm freaking out because I'm like, we haven't even, does it work? Is it possible? I don't even know how old, I didn't have a car, I don't think at this point. Cause I remember I had to ride my bike to Kmart.
Oh no.
I had to ride my bike to Kmart and I like pull up, I park it on the sidewalk and I go in and I have no idea what I'm doing, dude. I'm just freaking out.
Yeah.
And I walk up and I mean, when I was younger, I don't know if I still had the afro at this point, but I looked like an asshole.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around looking for employees and I find someone, I'm like, where are your pregnancy tests? And they're like, excuse me? I was like, yeah, my mom needs a pregnancy test. I said it and I was like, oh fuck. And they're like, okay, not believing me at all.
Oh wow.
Like, yeah, my mom needs a pregnancy test. So they leave me over there, here you go. And there's like, I don't know how many options there were at the time, but there were options and I was just like, which one? And they're like, well, they look at me like, I don't fucking know what kind of pregnancy test you need.
How pregnant might she be?
So I'm like looking.
How pregnant is your mother?
A bunch of guys just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I had to wait in line for all the other high school dudes waiting to buy their pregnancy test. Their bikes were also parked out front.
For their moms, yeah.
It's an Ohio thing.
No, they come out there like, I gotta get that guy's mom a pregnancy test. Yeah, me too. Yeah, me three.
So I buy one. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the route I had to go on, but it was like a decent bike. I'm just on my bike riding home with a Kmart bag with a pregnancy test in it, just like sweating bullets from stress the whole way. Thinking about the fact, like, what if that guy knows my mom? And I remember I was like, just please don't run into anybody. Please don't run into anybody. And of course, my mom's like in the driveway as I get there. Like, oh, what'd you do? What were you doing at Kmart? I was like, just grabbing a treat.
For some reason, I don't know why my mental image, but you have training wheels on your bike. And you have like a little hat with that spinny propeller on the top of it.
I got a little horn, I squeeze and
Mom, what are all these kids doing lined up outside your house?
I'm sorry, Mom, but we all had to buy you a pregnancy test. Spoiler alert, after my ex used it, turns out she wasn't pregnant and all's good. Period started like the next day.
Can't believe it.
Yeah. I'd like to start by thanking my mom for existing so I could buy that pregnancy test under a very good fake story.
It's the reason you were born. One moment.
My whole life was for this one moment. Cruising on my bicycle to buy a pregnancy test. What year was this? Like freshman year?
2007, freshman year.
So I come in from winter break. I open the door and, Bob's there and I'm just like, let's loft the beds. Like, I don't think I said hello first. I think I walked in the door and was like, you want to loft? You want to put the beds in on top? Bunk them? You want to bunk the beds?
Well, we'd have so much more room for activities that way.
I know. God, that movie hadn't even come out.
I know. That's exactly what we were doing. We wanted room for activities.
Like, we need more space for when people come over, when we have all these parties.
Obviously. We're cool guys.
You guys throw a lot of parties after this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
God, we definitely threw at least one.
we did throw one. God.
Great. I can't wait to hear how worth it this was.
So Mark enters, and so our current setup, we basically split the room in half, right? But it's not that big of a room. Like, if we were standing shoulder to shoulder, we'd probably take up the whole width of the center of that room.
Yeah.
So, if you bunk one bed on top of the other, you get like a quarter of the room. But the way the beds are supposed to go together when you bunk them, you're supposed to, one, lower the height of the bed that goes on top, because when they're on the floor, the bed is like all the way up on the highest setting it can go, right? So you can put stuff under it.
Okay.
But if you leave it like that and then put it on top of another bed, there's like maybe a foot between the bed and the ceiling.
Yeah, really, like legitimately.
So you're supposed to change that, but that required like tools or, I don't know, knowledge. We didn't know how to do that, so we didn't do that.
Of course not.
So we're looking at this and we're like, yeah, I don't think we can't adjust your bed. I think, and Mark is like, that's fine. I'll sleep up high. Good air up high. It'll be fine. Good air. Like, we get past that hurdle. The other thing about this is, other than the fact that you're supposed to, one, ask for permission and two, ask for help from adults, there's supposed to be a thick metal pin in each of the 4 legs that lock it in place. So they can't slip off. That seems crucially important,
Sure
right?
does.
And then we're looking and we're like, all right, metal pins. We don't have metal pins. And I don't know. I think it was you, Mark. I gotta give credit where it's due. We're sitting there like brainstorming, and Mark like goes into his wardrobe and turns back to me with a pair of scissors and a plastic clothes hanger. And is like, if we just snip this straight part of this clothes hanger, it's like metal pins.
It was the perfect size. It fit perfectly.
It was the right diameter. It has, I'm pretty sure, plastic clothes hangers you can snap with your bare hands have the same tensile and shear strength as metal pins. So like, yeah, he looks at me and of course he holds up the scissors and then the thing, and I look at him and I'm like, perfect. How big do you think they need to be? Let's do this. No hesitation at all.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh.
And my favorite part of this whole thing, we eyeball them to the same-ish length, set them all in. We hoist the bed up really precariously, set it on the pins. One of the 4 pins was like half an inch longer than the other ones, and it was half an inch too long.
Yep.
So the bed, the weight of that corner of Mark's bunked bed, which is now like 10 feet off the ground, the weight of that bed is sitting on the plastic clothes hanger. And we sort of like, I don't remember the conversation, but we looked at it for maybe a second, like 10 seconds total. And then Mark was just like, fuck it.
Of course. Yeah.
And just climbed up. And so for the entire rest of that school year, Mark's bunk bed, 1/4 of the legs was supported by like a 1/4 inch thick piece of plastic.
You should be fucking dead.
Okay, so suffice it to say, finally, we learn that we're going to get a refrigerator. It's going to come. It's going to come 9 days after it was initially supposed to be there. Whatever. But fine. Like, you know what? Fine. It's not like we needed it right away. It's just a refrigerator. And this morning, I was literally on a call with you guys. We were getting ready to do exactly what we're doing right now. And my phone starts ringing. It's the delivery guys. And I pick it up and he's like, we'll be there in 10 minutes. And I'm like, why did the system tell me 11 to 3 then? And he's like, I don't know, sir. We're on our way. And I'm like, this is incredibly inconvenient. Can you come at the time that you're scheduled? And he was like, nope, we're on our way. And I literally, to you guys, I was like, okay, I gotta go, I guess. We'll do this later, right? Okay, bye. Schedules are for nerds. So that's how it starts. And they show up there and I'm like, okay, so we already tried to deliver this. You guys can't come in through the front. There's a door that it won't fit through. So you kind of have to go around back. I'll show you. And he's like, what do you mean we can't come in through the front? And I'm like, ooh. I mean, we've been here. I'm just saving you some time. It won't fit. And he's like, nah, let me measure it. And like, fine. But also, like, fuck you. Like, goddamn. So he comes in and he looks and he measures the little door into the kitchen. And he looks at me easily like, oh, yeah, it's definitely not going to fit through here. And I look at him and I'm like, do you want to see the side yard? And so we have a fridge in there and it already has a water line because it has an ice maker. There's supposed to be some kind of shutoff. These guys cannot find the shutoff to the water line. And he looks at me and he's like, there should be a shutoff. You should know where that is. I'm like, bro, I just fucking bought this house. Can you call the previous homeowner? Like, yeah, let me call her up. We're buddies. I bought her house and now we get dinner every 2 weeks. Obviously. God. So he just unhooks the water and the water is just like spray, and he just kinks the line real quick. Like he unhooks it and he holds it up to me and is like, I'm gonna need you to hold this so we can finish. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. do this, get that fucking thing out of here, bring the other one in here, let's do this. And so I'm standing in my own kitchen holding a water line. There's a front window in the kitchen, so I can see they bring the old one out. I see them go out to the front where their truck is, and then I see them with the new refrigerator, and they bring it around, and so I know they're like on the way. And I'm just standing there, and I just hear from the backyard like, kerchink, whoosh, and then one guy goes, oh shit. And they just start rushing around, and I walk out there, and there's water is erupting up out of the ground like a geyser has started gushing. I don't know what has happened. Apparently, what genius number 2 did is they had the fridge on a dolly and there was a bush, and apparently it just fucking destroyed this bush. But also inside this bush is a PVC pipe coming out of the ground that's part of like the irrigation system. What he did was he dragged the fridge right through the bush and snapped off the fucking PVC pipe. And what they were doing is one of them was standing there staring, like thinking, and the other one had the broken off PVC pipe. It was trying to like jam it back on, like it was just gonna slip right back on. And like they looked over at me and were like, apparently the guy who was standing there watching is the one who did it. And he looked at me and he was like, I can't believe that pipe was in there. It was hidden in there. And it's an accident, you know? And like, it's not like it's a little flower or something you could like, ooh, push it over and scoot. It's a big fucking bush. To get the thing through where he got it through, he literally had to pull it up to that gap, and it stopped, and he was like, ooh, this bush is in the way. And he was just like, no, it's not. Let's go. God. Oh. Oh. I don't know what led them to that action, but there's no version of that that's not just so fucking stupid that it makes me unbelievably angry. Finally, I'm like, we need to shut the water off to the house. The guy who seemed to be in charge of this was like, right, the water main. And he handed me the pipe and was like, hold this on there. And I'm standing here like, this doesn't seem like how you install a fridge.
So it's freshman year. I wanted to do like an activity. What I tried to do was parkour. And it was like supposed to be a quote unquote beginner parkour thing. I showed up at the place and we met in the parking garage, and it was me and 3 other dudes. And one of them had done parkour, maybe. And the other 3 of us were just like complete newbies getting in there and just trying to have an adventure. We were jumping around the 4th level of the parking garage. And so we were leaping around there, we were jumping around. We would go like over the edge with like 50 feet below us, and we would just like dance around there for a little bit. And so we actually end up like dropping down 2 floors anyway but the stairs or the ramp inside. So like crawling around the building outside. And I don't die at this point. But we get down to the 2nd level, and it's time to drop from the 2nd story and do a sweet tuck and roll into this little grass patch. So the first guy goes, and he goes like drop and tuck and roll, and it's perfect, and he's fine. And then the second guy goes, and he manages to do it, a tuck and roll. And it's at this point that I realized they assumed I knew how to do a tuck and roll, which I had never done in my life. So there I am, hanging off by one hand from the 2nd story ledge of a concrete parking garage, looking at a tiny patch of grass that I'm supposed to hit. And in my head, I'm like, it can't be that hard. And so they're all giving me encouraging words. They're like, you can do it! And I'm like, I got this. I got this. And so I drop. And I landed from the 2nd story straight onto my ass. Like 100% full on into my ass. I felt something pop. Weirdly no pain, but like this stunned thing where you're like on the ground like, am I dead? Am I dead? And like weirdly enough, I seemed totally fine. I wasn't, by the way. I want to mention, I was not okay. And then the guy behind me is about to go. And he drops. And instead of falling on his ass, he fell on his face.
Oh no.
Like his legs hit, he went forward, he did not roll. Right into his face and chest hit the ground. Jesus. And you just hear him go, like,
oh, God.
Like just all the wind dropped out of him, and he's desperately like on the ground trying to get a sucking breath. So, you know, after a while, we're just standing there. We're looking at this guy dying on the ground, and we're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? But he gets up, like he gets up and he plays it off like, oh, I'm fine. But clearly his ribs are broken. Like straight up, his ribs are broken.
God.
And so he gets up. He's like, I think I'm good for today, guys. I think I'm gonna go lay down. So it's like he stumbles off, and we're watching him. We watch him walk away for like 5 minutes. So we're watching him stumble away. About the time he disappears out of view behind, you know, those hills, like we look at each other, we're like, all right, let's keep going, guys. You know, it's just like. And so we go over to this building. We get to the roof. We hear sirens when we're up on the roof. For some reason in our brain, we're like, they're coming for us. They found out. We went into the forbidden zone. And like, you know, we're like, they're gonna get us on this roof. We've committed horrible crimes. So we all panic, right? So we panic and we run off. And then again, they drop down from this second-story ledge onto this grassy part. So I find myself once again hanging by one hand from a second-story ledge looking down. But in my mind at this moment, I'm like, okay, I went backwards that last time. I'll go forwards this time. I know what my mistake was. And so I drop and I'm like, forward, forward, forward. I saw them roll on like their shoulder. And so my legs hit the ground. I go forward. And I put 100% of my weight right onto my shoulder. And I don't move. And it's just like I hit the ground, my shoulder just.
Well, thank God you did it the right way that time.
Yeah, thank God you rolled forward, saved it.
I like am down there for a while. And I'm like, I'm okay. And I look up and they're gone.
Well, they taught you, didn't they?
They freaking destroyed my body and then bail.
I think the only way that could be better at all is if you look up and there's like two cops just standing there. Just like, we know where you were. That's the forbidden roof.
I hope they lost their parkour teaching license after this.
All right, Bob, you're up first.
Okay.
You're on a cruise ship. Ship encounters a storm. The storm rages on and on until eventually you and the other passengers are told you must head to the lifeboats and abandon ship. As you line up, you realize some lines have fewer people. Some have families. Some seem to be younger. Some are single people. You know that you are strong and capable. Do you? Oh, wait, this isn't an open-ended question. Hold on a second. Okay, how about this? Yeah. You see that the line at the front of the line are young families, you know, infirm people, not strong like you. You don't think you're going to make it on a lifeboat because this particular boat does not have enough lifeboats to fit all the people on the ship. But the ship's going down. In about 5 minutes, it's going to be completely underwater. What do you do?
Okay. Easy one. I find the nearest crew member and I knock them unconscious. I steal their crew top shirt thing and their life jacket and their hat. So I kind of look like an official crew member. I hide them somewhere inconspicuous. It's frantic. No one will notice anyway. And then I run to the front of the line and I start helping. I run and I'm helping people. I'm strong, virile, I'm helping people get into the lifeboats. At some point, I look into the lifeboat and I yell, "What? No, what? I'll come look at it." And then I hop into the lifeboat and then I'm in the lifeboat and I'm looking around like I'm doing stuff. I'm helping people find their seats. I'm looking and I'm like, "Oh, you're here, let me fix your life jacket." And I just adjust some strap. Eventually the lifeboat, you know, lowers down into the water, sets sail, and I'm totally fine. Everything's good.
Wow, come look at this. All right. Wade, you're up next.
All right.
What would you do?
So I go and I light a fire because this boat's going down anyway. What's the fire gonna do? It's a distraction. Okay. While the fire is burning, I go and I help a family. You know, there's not a very long line. This family gets into the lifeboat, and I start to lower the lifeboat with like, I imagine it's like some kind of crane system to lower it down. But I pull one of the levers, so only one half of the boat goes. The other half stays up, tipping the passengers out. Pull the levers back up, hop in myself, drop it real quick so it lands and crushes the family, so they can't say anything about what happened. And then I drive away while the fire is burning and people are moving more frantically. Don't notice what I did.
Oh. Hey, maybe you did him a favor. They might have had
Maybe
a
I
slow...
did. Maybe it was a pretty moral act by my part.
Definitely was not. I know you are. Wait,
I don't know. It could have been.
Wait, where's around?
All right, back on top, baby.
You should be fucking dead.
I
When
know.
nothing happened. Nothing bad happened. Totally fine.
Well, like, okay, so
Well,
you got
okay.
you got to understand that, like, when I climbed in here, I didn't want to tell Bob that I didn't have a lot of room.
Don't admit defeat.
But let me just say, if I sneezed while I was laying in bed, I would have broken my nose. Like, I would have go forward a couple inches and I smack into the ceiling. Like, I remember laying in the bed and I could hear everything in the, like, dorm above me. And it was like, I heard people jumping around, like, partying. I heard people have sex, and I'm just like, worth it. We have so much room for activity. But then I remember, like, a few days after we did this, one morning, my alarm goes off or whatever. It's like early, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get out of bed. And I had forgotten that I was in a bunk. And so I, like, in a daze, it's dark, I, like, climb out of bed, and just suddenly I'm falling. And Bob, you gotta tell, like, what did you think? Like, I know you were asleep, you were woken up, but I was like, I fall, and I don't remember what happened, and then I was on the ground.
I mean, so I was really asleep. I'm not a morning person. I wake up super slowly. So I was laying in bed, mostly asleep. And it was like, if you imagine what it would look like in a cartoon.
Yeah.
If you're in an office building in a window office and somebody has leaped out of a window above yours and they come flying by your window like they're parachuting or something. Like, I'm just laying in bed and I just see Mark just like, ooh, whoa. And then Mark's just on the floor, and I don't even know if I rolled over.
I think he mumbled like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." After I go, "You okay?"
But you really like rolled out like you were just gonna put your foot on the floor. So the way you fell was just like tumbling, like whoa, fuck.
Yeah, God. But that was the only time I made that mistake, so it was good.